Welcome to Traveling with Glenn, a series of bicycle touring adventures designed to educate, to entertain, and to inspire the viewer. I am your host, Glenn Davis. Today's adventure is Ireland, the Emerald Isle. We will begin today's program with the playing of the Irish national anthem, the Soldier's Song. In the late 90s, I traveled to Ireland to do a solo bicycle tour on which I biked 1,435 miles. I spent 2 months from mid-July to mid-September on the Emerald Isle. I flew from JFK Airport to Shannon Airport, a distance of 3,076 miles, with my bike and camping gear. I used a 21-speed road touring bike. It was necessary to adjust to bicycling on the left side of the road. The population of the Republic of Ireland is 6.4 million people. Ireland is about the size of Vermont, New Hampshire, and New Jersey combined. It is 174 miles from east to west and 302 miles from north to south. Ireland is located in the North Atlantic Ocean between 51 and 55 degrees north latitude. It is west of England, the two countries separated by the Irish Sea. The Irish War for Independence saw the Irish Republican Army and the British security forces wage a bloody guerrilla war between 1919 and 1921. On January 21st, 1919, a breakaway government declared independence. A truce was declared on July 11th, 1921, and the Anglo-Irish Treaty ended British rule on December 6, 1921. Exactly 1 year later, the Irish Free State, a self-governing body with dominion status, was pronounced. Today, the government of Ireland is the cabinet that exercises executive authority in the Republic of Ireland. The government is headed by a prime minister. I should point out now that it was never my intention to go to Dublin. In my opinion, it's just another big city of which this cyclist wanted no part. To quote from my guidebook, Dubliners will tell you to get out of their dirty old town and that the West is the most Irish part of Ireland. I prefer the rural areas, there where you meet the true Irish. I concentrated on the western 2/3 of the country, which according to many is the most scenic, the most culturally and geologically interesting part of Ireland. One of Ireland's great poets, William Butler Yeats, would agree. "For me," he said, "Ireland is Connacht." And as a parenthetical note, Connacht is Ireland's northwest province. I arrived at Shannon Airport on Ireland's west coast between the towns of Limerick and Ennis in County Clare. This fine old stone home is near the town of Ennis. The Irish countryside of green rolling hills is dotted with pastures of livestock. These sheep have a great field in which to get fat. These pretty flowers grow along a stone wall in Newmarket-on-Fergus. We see Lisconnor Bay, cliffs, and the town of Lahinch. The Cliffs of Moher is one of Ireland's great natural wonders. The cliffs plunge straight down for 700 feet to the Atlantic Ocean. Thatched roofs are commonly found on older Irish cottages. Kilfenora Cathedral dates to 1190. Not much is left of it. A statue at the cathedral. An arched window of the cathedral. I rode through a region called the Burren on a chilly, drizzly, and downright nasty day with two delightful women, Caroline and Susan, who live in London. Their cheery company brightened up an otherwise miserable day. This is a dolmen, a monument consisting of several megaliths arranged so as to form a chamber, usually regarded as a tomb. I suppose it only fitting that we saw the Burren on a gray day. It is a bleak plain of eroded limestone which resembles an elaborate moonscape. Oliver Cromwell, Lord Protector of England from 1653 to 1658, a name hated by the Irish to this day, described the Burren as having no wood to hang a man, no water to drown him, and no earth to bury him. A pleasant scene in Kinvara, County Galway, showing hay bales and rock walls. Buildings reflected on River Corrib in Galway City. Lynch's Castle is an elegant 16th century stone mansion. The Lynch family ruled Galway from the 13th to the 18th centuries. In the late 1400s, Lynch Jr. killed a Spaniard in a jealous rage over his girlfriend. The son, sentenced to hang, was so beloved by the populace that not one man would agree to be the hangman. Lynch Sr., lord of the castle, was so determined to administer justice that he hanged his own son. This ancient memorial of the stern and unbending justice of the chief magistrate of this city, James Lynch Fitzstephen, elected mayor AD 1493, who condemned and executed his own guilty son, Walter, on this spot. I wondered if the derivation of the verb lynch stemmed from this incident, but the two appear to be unrelated. The earliest use of lynch seems to come from colonial America in the phrase Lynch's Law, a term for punishment without a trial. Blocks of peat are drying alongside the road. Peat is defined as semi-carbonized vegetable tissue of various plants, especially mosses, formed by partial decomposition in water. Once dry, the peat can be burned to heat homes. Beyond the bleak, boggy, rock-strewn landscape are mountains called the 12 Pins of Connemara National Park. After having been evicted from their homes by Cromwell, this is the kind of land where many Irish were forced to eke out an existence by growing potatoes, about the only crop that will grow on this land. This shows Kilkieran Bay and the 12 Pins, which rise to 2,400 feet. We see the Mamturk Mountains and more rolling hills. We're viewing Ballynahinch Lake from my campsite. This is Loch Ina and the 12 Pins of Connemara National Park. These attractive fields along Loch Corrib are separated by stone walls. Rory O'Connor, the last High King of a united Ireland, retired to Cong Abbey in County Mayo after many futile battles against Norman troops, an arched window of the abbey. We have a fine view of Loch Mask and the Partry Mountains. The beautiful Ballintubber Abbey was founded in 1216. An interior view. Dunmore Castle is a 13th century Norman structure in County Galway. In 1315, an army led by Rory O'Connor attacked and damaged the fortress. Dunmore Friary was founded in 1425 by Augustinians. Pretty Fields and River Shannon. Clonmacnoise Monastery is one of Ireland's ancient gems. Pope John Paul II visited the monastery ruins in County Offaly in 1979. This is a view of a window in the cathedral through which we see McCarthy's Tower. The monastery was founded by St. Kieran in 545 AD on the eastern shore of River Shannon. We see the 9th century South Cross. The monks' annals record a vision of manned ships passing through the air above the city in 748 AD. Could they have seen extraterrestrials? We are viewing Temple Fingen and McCarthy's Tower. The 12th century Romanesque church and tower is possibly the earliest example of such a single structure in Ireland. St. Kieran's settlement grew into a city and an important center of religion, learning, craftsmanship, and trade from the 8th to 12th centuries. It was attacked frequently during those 4 centuries, mostly by the English, at least 40 times, at least 27 times by the Irish, by the Vikings at least 7 times, and at least 6 times by the Normans. Henry VIII's legions, who sacked the abbey in 1552, carried off everything of value. This is a replica of the Cross of Scriptures, circa 900. The cross is divided into panels, showing scenes including the crucifixion, the Last Judgment, and Christ in the tomb. The monks rebuilt the monastery and its cathedral several times. The population at Clonmacnoise grew to as many as 2,000 by the 11th century. The current cathedral dates from about 1100. The last High King of Ireland, Rory O'Connor, was buried inside the cathedral in 1198. This shows detail of the top of the Cross of the Scriptures. O'Rourke's Tower dates back to 1124. By the 12th century, Clonmacnoise began to decline. The most significant reason was the growth of nearby Athlone, which became a major trading center for the Midlands of Ireland. the most popular crossing point of the Shannon, and the best defended settlement of the region. Adding to the decline was the influx of continental religious orders, such as the Franciscans, Augustinians, Benedictines, and others who built competing sites. We are in the town of Athlone, County Westmeath, the geographic center of Ireland, at the crossroads of the Galway-Dublin Road and River Shannon. World-renowned opera tenor and singer of Irish folk songs, John McCormick, was born in Athlone, where he got his start as a choir boy in the Church of Saints Peter and Paul, seen here. The left bank of the Shannon is home to the three traditional components of an Irish town: the market square, the cathedral, and the castle. Athlone Castle was built for King John in 1210 for the purpose of defending the crossing point of River Shannon and to facilitate the Norman advance into Connacht. The course of English history took a pivotal turn at the siege of Athlone in 1691, when William's army captured the Leinster half of town and laid the smaller Connacht half under siege. The Jacobites broke down the bridge and prevented its repair to stop the English advance. The Williamites, not to be deterred, fired 12,000 cannonballs into the Connacht half of town, forded the river, and stormed the castle. Pretty fields and hills in the Irish Midlands of County Roscommon. Loch Macnean Upper in County Cavan. I photographed Loch Melvin in County Leitrim. We are in Ballyshannon, County Donegal, which St. Patrick once offered to make a second Rome. It still hasn't happened. We are viewing a street scene and the clock tower, a stone barn in Ballyshannon, Loch Unshin, northeast of town, a thatched roof cottage. Another view of Loch Unshin. Just outside of Ballyshannon is the barely visible ruins of the Cistercian Abbey of Assaru, founded in 1179 and built on an ancient pagan holy site. The Cistercians were brilliant water engineers who canalized River Erne to harness its hydraulic power for running a mill. River Erne, at 80 miles long, is the second longest river in Ulster. Fields, stone walls, and hills north of Ballintra. Donegal Castle in Donegal town dates back to the 15th century. Donegal Bay, fields, and hills. In the next two pictures, we see homes, fields, and green hills near Glentees. Near the town of Gweedore, there is a wonderful view overlooking a valley containing a ruined church. The Derryveigh Mountains of Glenveigh National Park are in the distance. The founder of the Glenveigh estate was John Adair, who during a cold April in 1861 evicted 244 tenants on trumped-up charges. Some emigrated to Australia, while others were forced into a subsistence lifestyle in the workhouse. We see sheep grazing on a steep hillside, a small village, Loch Errigal, and the Derryveigh Mountains. Near the town of Creesloch is Dhu Castle, built circa 1425. The castle has walls 4 feet thick and is believed to be haunted by the ghost of a woman. Dew Castle, Sheephaven Bay, Fields and Hills. Loch Esk Castle, built in 1868 as an Elizabethan-style residence, soon fell into disrepair. It is easy to tell that this was a home and not a castle or fortress, because the walls are not 4 feet or more thick. A cross at Loch Esk Castle. Loch Esk means Lake of the Fish. Castle McGrath and Cowes. The castle was built in the 1600s, besieged and captured in the 1641 rebellion. We are at Donaghmore Workhouse in County Laois. The workhouse was the most dreaded and feared institution in Ireland. It was a place where paupers would commit themselves with great reluctance. Only death by starvation was worse. The inmates gave up everything to enter the workhouse, their pride, their families, and their land. Once a family entered the workhouse, they would never see one another again, as men, women, and children were strictly segregated. They could leave at any time, but possessing nothing, they would be vagrants, and vagrancy was a crime. The only crop capable of providing enough nutrients per acre to support 19th century Ireland's population was the potato. In the early 1840s, the government began importing large quantities of guano from South America. The fertilizer, expected to increase productivity, caused a fungal disease from 1845 to 1847. The blight blackened and made the potato crop inedible. The result was famine. The destitution and hardship of the Great Famine forced many people into these wretched places like a flock of famished crows. Donaghmore Workhouse was built in 1853 as a post-famine workhouse to relieve overcrowding in the Roscrea Workhouse. During the famine, countless thousands died within the workhouse walls, mostly of disease. Even more, denied admission, died outside. Those fortunate enough to emigrate did so. We see a potato sprayer on the left, and on the right, a cart. And here we see a combine. It is not known how many Irish died during the decade from 1841 to 1851, nor will it ever be known. But of the 1841 population of 8 million, an estimated 1.5 to 3 million died, mostly of disease. An estimated 22,000 died of starvation. Another million emigrated. Orphaned girls were sent to British colonies such as Australia, where there were shortages of females. The ships were referred to as orphan ships. When I visited Ireland, every western county in the country had less than half its 1841 population. Donaghmore closed in 1886. Workhouses were abolished in 1921. Thank you for watching Traveling with Glenn. Be sure to look for Part 2 of Ireland, the Emerald Isle. In place of my usual valedictory, happy trails, I leave you with this traditional Irish toast, which would be much tastier were I holding a pint of Guinness. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face, and rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the hollow of his hand.